what's going on, everyone? Let's see. See if we're live yet. Awesome, it shows that. I don't have my chat up and running, but that's okay. We'll go to it here. Awesome, it shows that. I don't have my chat up and running, but that's okay. We'll go to it here. Awesome, it shows that. I don't have my chat up and running, but that's okay. We'll go to it here. Awesome, it shows. Still very new to this, so you guys will have to bear with me for sure. Actually, let's try it this way and get going here. All right. Oh, I got 2 viewers. All right. Does it show? Doesn't show my participants. So that's okay. All righty. All right. Well, yeah, guys. Welcome back to another episode of DAC Chats. Tonight we're going to be going over the nomination episode that just aired. And yeah, so it was a pretty interesting episode, I thought. We kind of got to see some behind the scenes stuff compared to what we did see on the feeds. It was really nice. We started out with Amira talking to Nicole. And we kind of saw that form out in the episode format where we saw, her coming to her and talking about, we have this 5-person alliance. They actually gave it a name, and I did miss the name, unfortunately. If anyone caught that, let me know. Drop that down in the chat, because I did actually miss that, unfortunately. But she was talking to Nicole about, we have this 6-person alliance. Paloma was a part of it, and now she's gone. And we do feel like, we need to adapt a little bit better and add another person into that. So that way it's not just the 5. We feel like it's stronger with the 6. And so they approached Nicole and talked to her about, coming in and joining that. And she's like, oh, yeah, great. And then we almost immediately see her. It was a little bit later, but we see her talking to Daniel, kind of writing out that new alliance structure. And so she's, trying to bring that in and all that type of stuff. And then after that, we start to see a little bit more info about Jasmine's ankle. She said it was sprained, it wasn't broken. She was able to stick it out. Obviously, she didn't have to go lead to have any surgery or anything, so that was good. And they were able to get that X-ray. I believe they didn't mention on the episode, but there have been talks about how on the feeds they were able to do an in-house X-ray, so she didn't have to leave the lot or anything. We kind of see her come back with a mask on, so that was a little bit, if you caught that or not, kind of shows why she needed a mask. So that's because she had to go out and have an X-ray. So they were able to bring an X-ray in and determine that it wasn't broken, it's just a sprain. So she'd be able to tough that out. And then, so we see that she is able to compete in the comp because of what style it was. And we'll get to that here in a second. But we see that Alyssa is talking to Taylor right before the HOH comp, because Alyssa says, hey, look, me and Taylor, I didn't think that we were going to be able to work together. She says that Taylor was a little standoffish, before or earlier in the previous week. But now that, everything that happened, she wants to get in good with her, especially now because she is like, Taylor actually does have a decent chance at winning this HOH comp. So I want to make sure that I'm on her radar, because she wasn't, or she's in good with her, and she's not on her radar because she wasn't really in good with her before. Now, Alyssa was one of the few people that was really being a little bit, started to think a little bit throughout last week, well, maybe Taylor isn't as bad. So it is a little bit genuine. Hi, Stacy. Thanks for joining the chat, for joining the stream. And I will let you guys know, this is kind of an all over together stream right now, but I'm still figuring out the flow of everything. Currently, and I plan on putting out a announcement video here in the next couple days. We're going to try and do all of our shows as live streams for now, mostly because editing does take up a lot of time. Shooting the video doesn't really take up that much time, but editing does. So by the time I get it edited, it usually takes like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get it edited, and then processing the upload to YouTube. It's not getting out very quick. So I want to get you guys these recaps and even the live feed updates out sooner. So we're trying to figure, like we said in the beginning, we're figuring everything out and see what works and what doesn't. So we might get through this and see that, after trying to do live stream format for a week or two, it may not work out the way we're hoping, but we'll see. We'll see how that works. But what I want to try and do is be able to give my thoughts, my notes on the episode, and then leave room for you guys in the comment section to be able to ask questions that you guys might have. Ask anything in particular on my take of something that went on, or something that you might have missed. What I would like to do, and we're not going to do it tonight, just because this is still kind of a test stream, but I want to make sure you guys know, and I've been linking it in the description. My Twitter handle is @DakChats. So I'm going to be posting all of channel updates. Anything that's not a video is going to be going on there, because until we hit 500 subscribers, I can't post anything in the community tab. So if there's ever something that comes up, or I'm going to miss an episode, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but life happens. So we might miss something, or we might miss a live feed update. I can't post it in the community tab until we hit that 500 mark. So go ahead and subscribe to me, or follow me on Twitter @DakChats. And then any updates, anything that comes up, we'll be putting it on there so you guys are aware of what's going on, if anything does come up. So I do, moving forward, what we're probably going to do is, that way I can also kind of keep track of it a little bit better, because sometimes the chat can kind of get messy. Right now, we don't have a huge following, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if we do start to get more people in the chat, then it could be a little challenging. So we'll probably, and I'll let you guys know next episode if we do this or not, but probably start having anyone that wants to ask questions tweet at me on Twitter, and we can go from there. For now, we're just gonna roll with it as it is. But anyway, so back to the episode. But yeah, we saw Alyssa is a little bit concerned that Taylor might win, so she just wants to make sure she's in her good graces. Even if she hadn't done that, I don't know that she would have been directly on her radar. Alyssa and Paloma were really good friends, but I think Taylor, I think there's a couple other people that would be on Taylor's radar. Now, throughout the day or so after the nominations, Taylor did kind of talk to the feeds about stuff that she might be picking up on, and some plans that she's starting to develop, or at least people that she feels she should target. We'll bring that up in tomorrow's recap. I know we weren't able to get one out last night, but we're going to do one tomorrow to just kind of cover everything that happened over the last couple of days and just kind of summarize some stuff. And that way you guys can get my take on that as well, and my thoughts. But Taylor is starting to kind of think for herself, and we'll just kind of leave that as a precursor to tomorrow's update. She is starting to get some concepts of what is going on, what has been going on, and who she might need to target. And the only thing I'll say to that is she is doing better than I initially was expecting, and I am getting really excited from a game perspective and a game player perspective as to what she can do. So just a little bit of appetite teaser for that for tomorrow. So we go on to the HOH competition, and we see that it is a eating contest. Now, obviously now we know Jasmine won HOH. For those of you that haven't been following the spoilers and the live feed updates, we were all kind of wondering. Now, I didn't catch if they mentioned on the feeds what type of comp it was. We were all kind of curious as to what it was, because it couldn't have been anything too physically challenging, because Jasmine wouldn't be able to compete. If it was too demanding on her physically, she wouldn't be able to do it because of her foot, or her ankle. So, we were kind of curious as to what type of comp, and it was something obviously she was able to do and she's able to pull off. So we see that initially Kyle and Monty were the first out. Now the questions that they had were, whether or not the sign in the kitchen above the table said whether or not it was color TV. And I knew that instantly because that sign keeps popping up every time I see it on the show or on the feeds. I see that sign and it sticks in my head. So that one I would have for sure got. And then we see that Kyle and Monty were the last to answer. They did answer correctly, but they were the last ones to answer, so they were out. I thought it was interesting that they did the first two. It's usually eliminate one by one, but I think they realized they just don't have a lot of time, so they were taking out two at a time. So we see that Kyle and Monty were the first out, and then the second question was whether or not the refrigerator was red or not, and obviously it's not. It's blue, and so the last two people to ring in, Taylor and Joseph, so they got eliminated. So all hopes of Taylor winning HOH went out the window at that point. Next, biggest hope, at least for coming from a Taylor perspective, in the moment, I feel confident in saying would have been Michael. So we see Michael, Jasmine, and Amira moving on to that final part, and Michael and Jasmine move on to the final round after the question comes in as to how many bikes are in the weight room, and the true or false was 3. Amira instantly knew that, but from what I could tell, it seemed that she knew the correct answer, but she just didn't realize what letter she picked up when she was digging through, so she ended up picking the wrong one, unfortunately for her, but she did get disqualified for that. So it comes down to Michael and Jasmine. And Jasmine's telling Michael, hey, look, I'm really wanting to get a letter from my family. I want to talk to them. And I think she said something like, I want to talk to them, or I want to hear from them, or say something to them. And at least that's what I heard. And I kind of thought, well, that you're still not going to be able to talk to him. Just get a letter from him. So I don't know, maybe I just misheard what they said. But anyway, so she's asking Michael, hey, can you throw it to me? And he says, I'm fine with you winning. But, in DR, he says, if she wins, that's great, but she's going to have to work for it. He wants the same thing that she does. And I think Michael really wanted to stay in power as well, or obtain power to be able to start setting things the way he wants. He started out the first week of the game, which was also last week, as the first nominee, and then he started off in some pretty hot water. Back when it was just Michael and Terrence up on the block, no one really knew who was the main target, but he wasn't going well in the beginning, and now he's starting to make progress. And so we saw him get that veto win, pull himself off, and I think he was really wanting to. I know he had been talking on the feeds, I really got to win, and he wanted to put up Pooch and Turner, and that was his goal personally. And then after he talked to some of the people in his alliance, they were also reiterating that would be a good game move for him. So, but ultimately, we did see that Jasmine was the one that did win that. Now, initially, we see that she is gunning for Taylor. We already knew that. She wants Taylor out. She says as soon as she wins, next step is to complete my goal and send my target home. But by the end of the episode, we see that's not entirely the case. So she's initially going after Taylor, and that's what she's targeting. But Pooch starts talking, and he tells us, hey, look, he's talking to other people, but in the DR, he says, I have a great idea. I feel pretty confident in this. Taylor needs to go. The whole house knows Taylor's the target. There is no other clear target for this house besides Taylor. And I'm going to nominate, or I keep saying nominate, but he practically did nominate himself. He goes up to Jasmine and he says, look, put me up. I want to be used as a weapon, as a pawn. And you guys put me up on there against, I forget if he said who else he wanted to go up against. But he was like, hey, put me up as a pawn. And then either myself or one of you guys win veto, pull me off, and put Taylor up and we'll backdoor. He says he didn't want to give her any opportunity to fight for herself. She didn't deserve that, according to Pooch, and he just wanted to get her out. So we see that when you're so tunnel vision, it really does cloud your thinking because, as Alyssa says, that is the number one rule in this game. Avoid the block at all costs and do not nominate, especially do not volunteer to go up on the block, even as a pawn, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. We see that he nominates, or again, he volunteers to go up as a pawn, and the whole house starts talking about, you know, let's get Pooch out. You know, I mean, he is a big target. He's a big physical threat, and you know, we're kind of stupid if he's already volunteering. You know, we can puff this up. You know, allow him to keep going along his lines of thinking, and just let him play out his deal. We'll let him think, oh yeah, we're going with the plan, and then around veto time, if he doesn't win and we leave everything the same, then we'll just do that. Now, a little bit behind the scenes stuff, he wasn't wanting Taylor to go up alongside him. He wanted another pawn to go up alongside him, and he didn't want Taylor to because he wanted her backdoored. So he was a little bit irritated when that proposition was made that, hey, why don't we just put up Taylor against you? Because everyone started talking. It wasn't just Alyssa, it was the whole house. And beyond that, we start seeing that, you know, the whole house is really coming to a conclusion that for whatever reason, they're still wanting Taylor gone, but she's not as big of a threat as, you know, everyone might think. And Pooch is a bigger threat because he's got an alliance with everyone. He's good with everyone. And he's not really someone that everyone's comfortable having around. He's also, and we did talk about this the other day, he has also done some personal stuff that's made a few people uncomfortable. So everyone's kind of down for the general consensus. Well, let's go after Pooch this week, and next week we can take out Taylor. So, you know, they talk with Jasmine, everyone kind of comes up, and it did take a bit of convincing for Jasmine because she, the entire time after that HOH comp before noms, and another bit of insight for those of you that don't already know, I don't know what time the HOH comp ended, but 5:30 their time, most of them were still up. And then not long after that, around 10 or 11 Big Brother time is usually when they wake them up. And so Jasmine ended up only getting about 4 hours of sleep that night, and then followed by, you know, everyone wanted to come talk to her. And she said, I'm not going to have people come up. I'm not going to request people come talk to me. People want to talk to me, they can come up and talk to me. Which, you know, that's her prerogative. And especially considering some of the personal circumstances, I can't necessarily blame her too much for that. You know, she was hurt, she was exhausted, and she just wanted to rest. I do get that, but, you know, you're in a position where you want to figure out where everyone's at. You know, even if you already know who you're targeting, this is still a prime opportunity to have one-on-ones with people and not be looked at sideways. Every single person is going to have a one-on-one with you because you're HOH. So it gives you the opportunity to have, you know, close conversations with people, and not be concerned about how it looks or how it comes across. So I wouldn't do that. That's not really the best move in my opinion, but that's what she chose to do. Nevertheless, most of the house came up and talked to her, you know, and to see what her line of thinking was, what her goals were, who she wants out. And it did take a bit of convincing from the rest of the house to get her to target Taylor. Target Pooch over Taylor. So, you know, Feeds come back and the HOH comes over and she's talking about how glad she is she beat Taylor. She doesn't want Taylor here. She wants him out, or wants her out. And, you know, they start pitching this idea of, you know, Michael, Alyssa, and Amira really were the ones that first started talking and starting to come to this realization that, you know, he's already requesting to go up. He's a much bigger target. And another thing too that the rest of the house was talking about, or at least those three specific, was Taylor doesn't have anyone. She's not aligned with anyone, and she is trying to get in with us. She wants to work with us. So let's use that to our advantage. Let's weaponize her, because clearly she's a competitor. She's shown it. she is a competitor. She can win comps. She hasn't yet, but she can. And we can weaponize that. Why put her on the outs when we can use her? And then Pooch decides he can't really, Pooch is not in the same position as Taylor. He's kind of good with everyone. And he is trying to find different outs. And they're nervous because they don't know where he's at. So we might get into a little bit of spoiler stuff at the end of the recap just because it kind of helps give more context. There were some conversations after the noms before the veto, and even though it kind of does go in, and we probably will see that in Wednesday's episode, it kind of gives more context. So if you're interested in that, stick around and we will talk about that in a little bit. But ultimately Jasmine does, it's not shown on the episode, but that's what she's saying in her DR, and so maybe that is what she meant. But she was convinced 100%, okay, we're going to go Pooch. We're going to put them both up, and we're going to hope that Pooch is the one. He's going to be our target. He's a whole house target. So we do end up seeing that. Ultimately, Taylor goes up, and she's like, am I going to be, I don't want to be a pawn. I'm expecting to be one. And okay, yeah, I that's what I assumed. And, we see Jasmine kind of talking about, well, who would you want to see if you were HOH next week? And so they're having those conversations, and she realizes she's going to be put up as a pawn. So she's like, well, we're going to just get ready and see what happens. So it's really her best option right now is to kind of lay low. Don't fight it. If they want her to go up, don't fight it, because that's only going to put her in worse graces with the rest of the house. So ultimately she does not fight it. She doesn't want it, but she realizes it's going to happen, so let's cooperate. And that's what she does. So we see, everyone was kind of curious how Jasmine was going to get the nomination key box down the stairs. I assumed they would just have someone come up and carry it down, and she came out of the bathroom and it still fell. So, that was kind of funny to watch, but we see that Pooch and Taylor are eventually the ones that do get nominated. And Jasmine, she says in her DR, I don't even know who my target is. And I think she does believe it. I think that even though she knows what the goal for the house is for the week, that's still not what she would prefer. She was kind of convinced to send Pooch home as a target, but that's not who she's really pulling for. Ultimately, she really does want Taylor gone still. And I think that's, where she was headed. So yeah, we see that Pooch and Taylor do get nominated, and from the episode perspective, there's not really much context as to who the target is, but we do see that Pooch is overwhelmingly the general consensus of the house anyway. So we may not see what Jasmine's main target is, but we do know what the house is going to go along with. And now that Jasmine's made her nominations, and especially after the veto, whether or not it's used and a replacement goes up, she's pretty much powerless at this point. It's up to the house, and they can say all they want. Well, we want to do what's going to make Jasmine more comfortable. We want to respect her HOH, which it's, you don't want to actively do something to cause an enemy necessarily, but you still need to do what's best for your game. So just because the HOH nominated two people doesn't mean you have to go after the person that their ultimate target is. You can do whatever route you want to go. So I don't know if it was shown. I can't remember if it was shown in there, but Joseph and Turner were the only two people that weren't aware of what the plan was going into the nominations. Everyone else kind of knew what was up. And so, that kind of leads that into where the veto takes place, because the veto happened the very next day, and a lot happened late just after nominations. Prior to that, so we will kind of get into it there. If you don't want any spoilers past tonight's episode, now'd be a good time to head on out, and then come back and see us next Wednesday for that recap. But so we do see that post nominations, Monty is getting a little bit worried because he doesn't want her to. he's scared of Taylor. He knows that he's in a bad spot with Taylor because of the events last week, because of how he mishandled that, and he still never actually has talked to her since. He's kind of afraid as to, where she might lie, and so he hasn't been talking to her, and she noticed that. She's noticed that he's not been coming up to her, and it's kind of scary for her that she's not getting anything from him, and so he's kind of correct in that line of thinking, and he pulls Kyle in because initially Kyle's all for all of it, for sending Pooch home, and then he starts to realize, well, him and Pooch are like, we don't have Pooch isn't coming after us. In fact, he's giving us all his information, whereas Taylor, she's not. She's going to be coming after us regardless, and especially Monty. So they're wanting to get Pooch out, or they're wanting to keep Pooch and target Taylor. And there's been a huge discussion over that. Nicole has instantly said, yeah, I appreciate you bringing me in this group. Now that you did that, we're going to do what's best for the group. Now, ultimately for her, she's thinking about what's best for her and Daniel, but she's utilizing this group to her advantage. And I do think that that's a good plan. If she does feel more loyal to Daniel, and she can play it off and have the numbers. And ultimately it's the other five's fault because they know how close she is to Daniel. And it's kind of on them for their lack of awareness that she is going to go right to Daniel. But one observation that we kind of made over the last week is that between Amira, Alyssa, and Michael, and I did throw Kyle in there because Kyle and Alyssa have been getting pretty close. And we know that Kyle and Michael have gotten fairly close, that those four could be a core four. But in order to accomplish that, I think they're going to have to pull Kyle away from Monty, and I don't think they realize that. And they haven't really formed anything official up to this point that I'm aware of. But I think that could turn into something because of how closely aligned they are, and all of their interests are fairly closely aligned as well. And they all kind of have the same line of thinking. So we see them kind of fighting with Monty, and finally Monty's like, all right, fine. If that's what you guys want, I'm not going to fight it. We'll go after Pooch, because they're basically saying, we know that it's better for you and Kyle to take Taylor out, keep Pooch, but for us and the rest of the house, it's not. And so you can't just think about what's good for you guys. This is what everyone is wanting. And while they should be concerned about what their own, what's best for them, if you're actively fighting against the house, that's really not going to help you out at all. So they are kind of stuck in a hard spot, but, ultimately the decision is to, before veto's played, the current plan is, if anyone besides Taylor or Pooch win, Nom stay the same, we're getting Pooch out. If the veto is won or is played and takes one of them off, if Pooch wins and takes himself off, then we're going to put up Turner and Turner or Brittany, but I think it was Turner was the main focus. Put up Turner and take Taylor out. She's a new target. If Taylor wins, then she'll pull herself down, obviously, and go after, they'll put up Turner, and then their main goal will be Pooch, and then Pooch is going to be screwed. Screw the Pooch. So it's going to be interesting moving forward. But like I said, I do plan on having another update out tomorrow, I think, is going to be the goal. And to kind of recap everything that's happened over the weekend, from who won veto, because that, to my last live feed update, that was the last point we got to, was right before we did discuss who the veto players were, who was drawn. I'm not going to reveal that just because I don't want to get too spoily. I just went over some of the other stuff to kind of give a little bit more context, because even though that was set after the fact, it still has a good representation of to what the entire house mindset was, because of how hard Amira and Nicole were fighting to keep the plan the same. So at that point, the players had already been drawn, but we won't get into that yet. We'll get into that tomorrow. But tomorrow we're going to go over who won veto, what the implications for that is, and what the plan is post veto, whether it's the same or they've had to change it. So we'll check that out. But I know this was feels like a shorter one tonight. I think it was. But if you guys like the live stream, live chat down doing this way, let me know. I'm working on getting the quality improved and fixing everything up. And, I gotta have to adapt because I'm used to being able to cut and stuff. So we're going to try this, and I'm going to have to readapt to this a little bit, but let me guys know if you enjoyed it. This way we can have kind of an open forum discussion. Like I said, I'll get my thoughts out of the way, and then you guys can ask any questions or drop any thoughts in the live chat, and that way you can also get these out sooner. So let me know, do you guys like the regular videos better, or if you like these live streams? This will be posted right after it's recorded, so it can still be gone back and reviewed and watching that stuff. So let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. If you're enjoying this format, then on this channel and what we've been doing here, subscribe does mean a lot to me. It really does. And like I said, the closer we get to that 500 mark, I can start kind of communicating with you guys. But until then, follow me on Twitter at DakChats, and that's going to have all my updates for the channel, any future plans, any videos that are going to be coming up, and all that stuff. So we'll end that there tonight. But you guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.